Now, where did I put it? Here it is. Welcome to the Toolbox, where we discuss the tools we utilize every day. Yours to use or toss. It's up to you. But I hope you enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome back to Season 2 of Tools for the Toolbox. I have an absolutely excellent Episode 2 laid out here for y'all. And we're going to kick it right off with the same opening question I always use. Who are you and what is your military background?
Thanks, Chance. My name is John Watson. My military background is I joined in 2005, so that's 16 years. Been posted a bunch of places, Gagetown, Edmonton, where we met, Petawawa, and now Ottawa. Mm-hmm. And I'm also the founder of Warrior Adventures Canada, which is a nonprofit designed to take veterans and first responders on outdoor adventure trips. And we've been doing that since 2018.
Which is outstanding. When you guys started up, I was thrilled at the idea, but I was boggled by the logistics of it. To try and get 24 people down a river over a span of a week.
Yeah, it's a lot. And the guys I started it with, we're all still serving in the military, so it's kind of that work life, side gig, side hustle balance kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we all kind of just said to each other, if we can do one solid trip a year, at least while we're all still working in the military, mm-hmm. We'll be happy with that. And so far, the last 3 years, that's kind of what we've done. We're on pace to do 2 trips this summer, depending on the whole, COVID show situation, whatever goes there. But yeah. It's been 1 trip a year, which has been pretty good. I think this year, I think we'll get 2 trips out this summer, which should be good. But yeah, you're right, man. It is a lot. It can be a lot.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt. I'm not doing much other than looking after my kids and talking to people on the internet. But I got the walking stuff, but that's very timeline oriented. So I kind of feel for you, but I'm not working at the same time. So that is a whole nother ball of wax.
Well, I feel like those things where if you can find something that you like to do and makes you a little side money on the side, it's not really work. You know what I mean? If you're prepping for a podcast or I'm prepping for a trip, you might look forward to that. I look forward to prepping the gear, getting the canoes ready, doing map recce's, all the rest of it. Mm-hmm. I don't really see that as work. Just kind of carve out that time between real work and family life and that stuff.
That one of the hardest parts is recognizing when you need help and when you need to be able to delegate, and then being able to actually delegate, right? Because shit comes up there. As well as I do, life happens, right? And somebody gets sick or somebody needs to. Shit happens, right?
Yeah,
you never know.
So let me tell you a story on that. Actually, our second trip was going to be a rock climbing / mountaineering trip out in the Rockies, Bugaboo Provincial Park. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. Super nice area, and did all the planning, all the prep, everything for it. I ended up getting called away for a work thing. Didn't end up being able to make the trip. One of the other guys that founded Warrior Adventures with me, Adam, solid guy, took the lead on the trip. He went out early for a recce to prep some stuff, get everything set up for the trip. And 2 days before the participants started showing up, and everyone was going to fly into Calgary, meet up there, drive out to Iridium Hot Springs and kick off from there. 2 days before the trip kicked off, he had, I think like 90% of the climbing gear we had stolen out of the back of his truck. We're talking like $13,000 worth of climbing. Yeah, for like a 12-man climbing trip. And, just to be able to, and I was away at the time, getting a little bits of information on email and text or whatever. And just to have the confidence, someone to I kind of knew he was going to take care of it and not have to worry about it, mm-hmm. was a big help. Be like, I delegated to a solid person. He's going to deal with it. I don't have to stress about it all the time. So when you do have those chunk times, I'm at work, I'm with my family, you have solid people to take care of that stuff, and I just completely didn't have to worry about it. And Adam kind of had to run around to all the outdoor in the whole area between Canmore and Calgary, buying all the gear in 2 days to get the trip off the ground. Ended up going out fine, but what a shit show.
That sounds like a shit show. Was it like insurable? Does that did you get covered for that, or was that just like a write-off loss?
No, so that was our second trip. It's our second year, and for insurance we only just just kind of bootstrapping it, just covered for basic liability and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
After that trip, kind of threw some more money at the insurance to cover all our equipment. But it's like now it's never gonna get stolen. The next like 15 years and be fine.
Yeah.
It's just the one time, right? That wasn't covered.
Yeah.
So
That's hilarious. It's a great point you bring up though, in terms of having solid dudes underneath you and having a solid leadership team that can actually disengage for a few minutes. And it's, same thing we get in all of our training. You go to PLQ and you are forced to delegate. And if you don't delegate well, then it's going to be a shit show because the person doesn't know what you want. They don't know what you need, blah, blah, blah. But if you have solid set of leadership skills and you can say, okay, A, B, C, and D need to be done. These are your timelines, blah, blah, blah. It's all about being clear in your messaging and all that stuff. And it translates into everyday life because if you got kids, you got a business, you got anything else, the clearer you are, the easier it is to follow what you need to be done. Yeah. And it's such a point. So you're still working, you're still doing the Adventures Canada and running both of those. Normally I ask about a piece of transitionary wisdom, but since you aren't transitioning anytime soon, let's talk about business wisdom. So when I did my business course in NATE, one of the things I realized was that, business plan or financial plan, stuff like that, is basically a set of orders, right? It's not that different. You can write them up pretty quickly and then you can flesh them out from there. And if you follow it, it's pretty reasonable, but there are always going to be pitfalls. There are always going to be difficulties. There are always going to be things that you did not expect to deal with, and you just get thrown them, like having thousands of dollars worth of climbing gear disappear.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give yourself, or if you were to go back in time and give Adam in that one moment, what kind of advice would you give him to deal with the shit shows that eventually drop on you?
I'd say, I'm going to back up a little bit. One of the things, I'll get to what advice I give Adam in a second, but you just kind of sparked something in me I can't let go, is when you do start a business from ground up, and you do talk a lot about transition on your podcast. So I feel like there's a lot of guys that might be transitioning to either start a business or they're going to start some sort of side hustle as they're still working or as they're transitioning. I feel like, the approach we kind of took was, you don't want to plan yourself in circles for 5 years and then trying to make the perfect plan, the perfect business. You never know what problems are going to come, but just kind of start off with like the smallest viable product, the smallest thing you can kind of get off the ground, and just start running with it. And your customer base is going to adjust, and they're going to kind of show you what they want, really. You can spend years of whiteboarding and planning and PowerPoints and business plans, all the rest of it, and you just completely miss the mark. And because we were short on time, we just kind of looked at it like, we could write a crazy business plan. We could pitch this to a whole bunch of investors and apply to 10,000 grants and all the rest of it. And we did do some of it, but at the base level, we just need to like get some gear, book some camping sites, and get people and get out there. Mm-hmm. And it's going to work. The principles behind it are going to shine through. And then all the other stuff is just going to kind of fall into place as you go. It's never going to be the perfect product right out the gate. It's going to be a work in progress, but having something to test as you go is what you want. You don't want to be stuck in the planning room forever. And that's kind of how we looked at, kicking it off and starting it off, was just like, let's just get going here. Because we saw other guys we came up with in the nonprofit world, looking for the perfect board of directors, looking for the perfect guys to do this, looking for the perfect time. What's going to be our business? You're going to get drowned in all of it. All that stuff will come naturally. Just kind of get the quickest thing you can kind of get off the ground and just get running with it, and the rest will fall into place. And that's kind of how we looked at it.
That makes sense.
Adam, I almost laughed at myself when you asked the question, because like, you just picked solid dudes you're going to work with, and I never had any doubt whatsoever that he was going to solve the problem. I don't have to give him any advice. Like, you just get these. If you don't want to work with someone for a lifetime, don't work with them for 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pick solid people that you're going to work with, and that's it. You don't have to worry about those small things. You have that total decentralized command.
Mm-hmm.
He knows the mission. He knows the guiding principles. He's going to handle it, kind of thing.
Yep.
So really what you want to do is be in that position where you don't have to worry about it, but the type of guys we are, you're going to naturally worry about it. I was away, checking in on the email, the text, and all the rest of it, kind of worrying. And I'm like, okay, he's got it. Just put the phone down, focus on what I'm doing at the time, and let him handle it.
Yeah.
So that's answer your question. But yeah.
No, it absolutely does, because that is a really great piece of advice to tell people. You surround yourself with the right type of people and you won't have to worry about it. Right.
Yeah.
That is you look at some of the people that we've experienced in the military. Not everyone is great. Right. And not everyone is the optimal dude. And what you want to do is surround yourself with people that are optimal, right? And if you set an example of excellence, then excellence follows you, right? And that's part of it, is selecting who's going to be in your circle. And even on a personal level, the people you associate with, the people you hang out with, the people that you listen to and learn from, you have to select them, right? I look up to a few people, like I follow on social media and stuff, Jocko Willink being one of them, and Tim Kennedy and things like that. Do I agree with everything they say? No, but they raise really good points, and they push everyone around them to be better. Who doesn't want to be better?
Yeah, 100%. Something I was talking to a buddy about this the other day was, and I probably follow a lot of the same people you do, and I'm in touch with a lot of high-level military guys in Canada. Is you got to be careful that they're human. They make mistakes too, and they might not always talk about it and share it. Just before we kicked off, we talked, both of us, about mistakes we've made, missing timings, all the rest of it. Man, we're all friggin' works in progress. This is life. Jocko's not going to put a Instagram photo up when he didn't wake up super early and missed a workout. You're going to see him make he's kind of an anomaly. Maybe he never sleeps in, but you know what I mean? Just realize everyone has issues. Everyone has a day where it doesn't go according to plan. That's fine. Totally fine. It's about shaking yourself off, writing down your list for the next day, and starting from fresh. So 100%, have good mentors and good leadership and good examples surrounded around you. But, just don't get down on yourself when you're not living up to those examples. You gotta, like you said, you take what you can and you go forward with it. I heard another quote. It said, listen to all advice, reject most of it. So you can take in all the advice you want. And it's up to you to decide which pieces are applicable where and when. So they could be the most poignant piece of advice, but it just doesn't really apply to you at that time. It doesn't mean you tell the person, fuck off, I don't want to hear that. No, just take it all in and sort it through in your own mind, and then be able to apply it wherever it needs to fit, and wherever it comes out naturally.
That it's so true. And not only that, if you're talking about like personal introspection, right? You can think of, there's lots of time, like I think I read On Combat while we were overseas, right? And that helped a lot, because I was like, oh, that's why I'm feeling like this, or that's why I don't remember this particular time period during a firefight, whatever, right? And then I read Extreme Ownership after I was out of the military, and I was like, shit, really wish I'd learned that shit while I was in, because it would have made life a lot easier. But I also realized after years that I don't think I was ready to accept those lessons at that time. Because there were people around me that, were that example, but I wasn't taking it in at the time. Now I'm a little bit older, I'm a little bit wiser, I'm a little bit more understanding, more introspective. I can actually read into it. So it's really important to not even beat yourself up about the timing of learning this stuff, because you hear it all the time, right? Oh, I wish I had known that when I was 20. At 20, do you think you'd actually would have learned that? Right?
Totally, man. That's a good segue into kind of the start of War Adventures. It was kind of exactly that. It was reading the right book or learning the right thing at the right time, right? I'm sure you know Tim Ferriss, and he's got a bunch of books. One of them's Tools of Titans, and it's all this crazy, great wisdom in the book. Great book.
I got it upstairs.
Great. But there's something to be said of what you're reading and when you're reading picking up that solo book, there's so much information in there, but you could just flip through it and none of it hits.
Yeah.
Because of where you are or what you're doing at the time. Some of the biggest changes in your life are a certain book or a certain podcast you listen to, or a certain meeting you had or encounter at a certain time in your life. You're not going to pick up a book like that. You might get a couple good nuggets, but it's got to come across at the right time, I feel like.
Yep.
And so to go over the kind of start of Warrior Adventures, Adam, who we already mentioned, another buddy of mine, Justin, who is another Edmonton guy that works with me now, and a few other guys. We kept doing like these big, long, like outdoor adventure trips in between deployments. So, before we go on a deployment or after deployment, we just go on a week-long canoe trip, or we go rock climbing in California, or whatever it was. And they weren't easy trips. We'd get dropped off in the middle of northern Quebec and canoe our way out. Mm-hmm. With what we carried, right? There's no road access in the middle of nowhere, or we go climbing completely off the beaten path somewhere in the States. And so we're on one of these trips, 2017, northern Quebec. It's a whitewater canoeing trip. And I'm reading the book Tribe by Sebastian Junger.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And this particular canoe trip, it rained the entire week. It was just solid rain all week. We're getting drenched. It's really, you kind of got to suck it up and, just grind. It's one of those trips where, like, in the middle of it, you're like, this is going to be a good memory once we're done. Right now it's shit, but once we're done, we're going to laugh about this. And I'm reading this book, and he talks a lot about, how hardship is bringing people together, and kind of points out key things in living in small groups or living in really hard times, how it brings people together and how it makes you grow mentally, and how it lessens things like depression, anxiety, and all the rest of it, because you kind of have a common goal. You're coming together. You're not worried about all the outside stuff. There's no abundance. There's no like a million types of Netflix shows to watch, a million dings going off on my phone, bills to pay. There's keep yourselves alive, feed the tribe, and get on with the next mission, right? So he's pointing it all out, and we're on this trip, and I'm like, well, maybe this is why me and the guys are having such a long career in the military, is because we are doing these outdoor trips, and we're having these breaks, and we have these little chunks, a week, 5 days, a long weekend, whatever it is, where we are kind of living through hard times.
Yep.
All you got to really worry about is, where's your next meal coming from? Where you're setting up camp, and don't die, basically. Yeah. And sometimes they're hard, sometimes they're fun, but that's that kind of trip. And at the end of the trip, I told the guys, I was like, look, I just finished this book. We just got off this trip. Maybe there's something to this. Do you guys want to bring other people with us? And maybe there's more people that could, benefit from these types of trips. And then that was it. We were at a climbing gym actually when I brought it up. I was like, let's do another trip this summer, and let's figure something out and see if we can take 10 people, 10 vets or first responders on the trip, and we can share stories. They share stories, and go through hard times together, and we come out the other end, and everyone's refreshed and ready to get back at it, or get back onto the next mission, whatever it is.
Absolutely. It brings up a great point, and there's like a call to the wild, right? A lot of military guys, especially like combat arms types, where we'd like to be out in the bush. And yeah, it sucks sometimes when you're out there, and yeah, it sucks. Like the Army knows how to make time in the outdoors suck balls, and the old adage of going to the recruiters and him saying, "Hey, you like camping?"
Yeah.
Like, this isn't camping at all. What do you think it is that really connects us to that natural environment? Because some of the best people I know, you become the best friends with them when you're out in the bush, when you're out doing stupid, hard, ridiculous things, digging a 6-foot hole in the middle of Gagetown that's filling with water, right?
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
But where do you think that connection happens?
Well, there's kind of two things there. The one is, being out in nature or like having the call to get out there and do stuff out in the wild and go camping and all the rest of it, is a little bit different than, doing a defensive position. But it's what you're getting out of that is the shared hardship.
Yeah.
So being rained on, and I specifically remember doing a trench in Gagetown where, you know, you dig a couple feet, it's full up with water. Someone comes around and says, okay, well, just build it up with the sandbags around so you get a good height, like a simulated trench. So you're just filling mud bag. It's a terrible experience. But just going through that together, it's exactly what Sebastian Younger highlighted in that book is we're going through it together. We all are eating the shit sandwich together, and we're going to laugh at it together. And that's how we're going to get through it. And so those experiences are good because at the end you went through it together and you bonded over it. There's something about bonding over doing hard shit.
Mm-hmm.
We were on deployment together like over 10 years ago in southern Afghanistan, and such a rough go. The bonds you build during that time are a lot stronger than the bonds you'd have with guys you went on an exercise in Shiloh or Wainwright 10 years later. You know, you might have been a hard time, it would have been a shitty exercise, but it's not going to be the level of, you know, the bonds you build in combat. It's just
absolutely
around it. But the other side of it is when you do get to go out in nature, like you said, on your own terms, not on an exercise. And I don't know what the answer, like for some reason, you're right, doesn't feel the same.
Yeah.
You just always have like, you know, whatever it is, the Army just, don't get me wrong, there's definitely times when you go and do exercises or do things in the military where it's great. I didn't expect that. That was a great exercise. It was outside the box. It was in a place we didn't normally go. But the box standard military exercises, generally, you know, it's hard to, you know, take a moment and look at the birds and the trees and the stream and have, you just hating life. But when you do get to go out in nature on your own terms, places that you do like, you know, at a base level, that's just kind of where we came from. I think that's part of it. And the other part of it, I think, is there's less to complain about. You know, when you're, I think you ride horses.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So if you're out on a ride, you don't complain about the random shit that happens. You don't complain. The trail goes to the left instead of right. You don't complain about that. The wind's blowing strong this day, not the next day. You don't complain about that. It starts raining, maybe you complain a little bit, but really, generally, you're not getting mad at the wilderness for what it's giving you. It's just there.
Mm-hmm.
But in your day-to-day life, if you're driving around town, complain about everything. Why is this red light? I don't like that person. This person's looking at me weird. My coffee's not hot enough. It's too much negativity all the time. You're complaining about every little thing. It doesn't make any sense. It's just drowning you. It's making you feel negative, and it's going to make you depressed and sad in the long run. You need to be able to take your experience in the wild. So when you're in the bush and you're in the wild, you just take it as it comes. You're just witnessing everything that's coming at you. You just accept it. No matter how much you get mad at the hill in front of you,
still there.
So eventually you realize to stop getting mad at the portages on the river, the hills you have to climb, the rain and the mosquitoes.
Mm-hmm.
You just get on with it. You decided to get out there, you're going to get on with it. But in the day-to-day life, you know, people find a lot to complain about, and it's a drag on the system. You know, try to pick a few things in your life that you want to complain about and drive towards those. You know, you have a goal, you have a promotion you want to get, you have a new career you want to start. Yeah, get mad at that stuff. Get mad at the stuff, how it's not going well. Be driven on that. But all the other stuff, just let it go, man. Don't worry about all the other stuff all the time because it's just a drain on the system.
My wife came up with this great little quote. We were talking, I can't remember what we were talking about, but she was like, humans are judgmental people. And absolutely, we are a gregarious species, right? We like to be involved with each other. Solitude is not extended solitude, I should say, is not normal for the average human, right? But neither is being constantly surrounded all the time at every moment. And that's what we have right now, right? We have a society that is built around constant attention, constant noise, constant light, like it's just, there's so much all the time. And one of the really calming experiences for me throughout my life has been able to go down to my family's ranch and like you just sit in the foothills and you watch the mountains, and one of my favorite sights, and it is super soothing. I don't know why it's soothing, but when you see like a crop field and you see the wind just like peel through it like waves on the ocean, I could just sit there and watch that for hours and hours and hours, right? And you're fine. But there's nothing to judge, right? You look at it and you're like, that is gorgeous. Okay, you know, that's a pretty big hill I got to climb. It's gonna be there regardless of what I think about it, right? The sun is hot. the sun is hot. The rain is cold. Yep, the rain is cold. But when you're surrounded by people all the time, it's, oh my God, what's that person wearing? And, why did he look at me funny? And like your brain is hardwired to make those judgments. And to be able to separate from that and just step out into the wilderness or out into the wild, or even attach yourself to something wild like a horse or dogs to a degree. And like, there is this base connection that allows you to detach from the emotional side of that judgment, right? You can just see it as what it is. The hill is big. Shit, that's going to be a long climb. Okay, here we go. And it's one of the reasons when I go hunting, it's usually me and one other dude, sometimes two at the most, but that's like the extent of my hunting trip, because that solitude is, I think it's crucial in life. You have to be able to take time, right? To step away and take time for yourself. And nothing does that better than nature. Nothing at all.
I can't remember where I heard this quote or said it, but it was, all of man's problems come from the man not being able to sit in a room alone for 30 minutes by himself. Sums that. You're always looking for something to occupy your mind, and the next thing, it's just it's just too much. And like you said, you need to be able to you need to have solitude. Okay, but solitary confinement is different than that, right? Like everything in life, it's balance between everything. You need to have everything in moderation. So you definitely need to have those times where you have self-examination, or you meditate, or whatever it is. And you need those social times. That's what humans need. You need those times alone. You need those times together. You can't go completely one way, one end of the spectrum on anything, especially that.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I live just outside Ottawa, and it's kind of limited opportunities, but there is some opportunities behind my house here for hunting, and I have a couple stands for deer. And I went out, and I was like just so excited to get some time alone. Life's busy sometimes. The kids are, it's just like a lot. Like, I can't wait to get the tree stand. It's going to be a good time. Yeah. And I got out there, and I didn't have my bow or I was just sitting in the tree stand. I didn't do like 5 minutes. Realized I'm just sitting here with nothing. Yeah. And I don't know where I'm going with that, but it was pretty funny. It was just like, that time alone, and that tree stand was it for me. And I'm just sitting there with nothing to hunt with. Yeah.
That really, that's actually really crucial, because what you did was you took time alone, right? That's what you needed, was the time alone, and you took it. And I think so many people have an issue of actually taking that time and recognizing it. Just like, okay, you know what? I'm getting fed up. I need to get the fuck out of here. Let me go to my tree stand. And the priority for you was to be in the stand. The priority wasn't to get a deer, right? Like, it was, I just need to get the fucking stand. Let me get up there. We'll be good. And it's it's the same thing for me when I'm packing for my hunting trips, because I'm usually out there 4 or 5 days by myself. And like, as I'm packing, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get the fuck out of here. I just like, get me out of the city, get me out of everything, just gone.
Yeah.
And what I realized after a long period of time was that there's this old quote, like, right, people like to be out in the wild because it's you versus nature, right? And there's a very binary relationship in that one. And I never quite agreed with it, because growing up on the ranch, it was never really, you never wanted to be at odds with nature, right? The old quote is, make hay when the sun shines.
Yeah.
Because, the sun's out, okay, we'll make hay. If it's raining, well, shit, we'll go work inside. We'll fix something, we'll do whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it's the real skill is to be able to accept what nature gives you.
Yep.
And when you're talking about like canoeing trips and talking about managing 12 plus people with safety and food and wildlife and a river, which is, water is unforgiving. You fuck up in water and shit happens, that's a bad day. Where do you think that, because you have to overcome nature a bit, right, for that trip? You have to be able to build a fire. You have to be able to stay out of the elements to a degree. You have to be able to camp out and actually enjoy the trip. Otherwise, a 10-day bag drive isn't the best day. But what do you think?
It comes back to balance or a dichotomy, like we were talking about with solitude versus socializing. Is the classic is like you got to go with nature, you got to go with the flow. You can't fight Mother Nature. At some point, you got to put your foot down, right? It depends on what you're doing, right? So again, it comes down to a balance. It's a dichotomy. You got to go with the flow. If you're rock climbing, well, you got to go where the rock lets you go. You can't force your way up certain areas. You got to go into the areas where you can go, where it's letting you go. When it comes to whitewater paddling, you got to go with the flow of the water. A big river flowing fast, it's like literally thousands of pounds of pressure on that water. If you get pinned between the water and rock, or between the canoe and the rock or something like that, you literally have to go with the flow. Like you can't fight. There's only so much you can do. But the other side of it, you do have to be prepared. You have to have the right equipment. You have to know when to stop and hold up and that kind of stuff. So there is a balance. You go with the flow to a certain extent, but when there's a thunderstorm, you hunker down and you do that, and you put your defenses that you can do. I understand to go with the flow. You gotta live with Mother Nature, but you don't want. I hate, some people, like you see on some shows, guys are traipsing around the bush with no shoes on or no jacket. Like, I get it. It's cool, and some people can do that, but you really do need to be prepared to battle and fight back a little bit. Go with the flow when you can, and fight back when you have to. It's a balance on everything.
Yeah, it really is. One of the TV shows I really love watching is Meat Eater. I don't know if you've ever seen that on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
I love it because it's not just the highlight of a hunt, right? Like it shows people walking, traipsing around through the fucking the shitty parts, the high bush and the rain and the climbing and the like can't see shit. And I just spent a week out here. I didn't see a goddamn animal. Now I got to go home, right? Like that's part and parcel of it. And a lot of other hunting shows are like, guy walks out of the bush. Hey, there's a deer. Bang, cool, awesome, done. Right? Like
well, that's type 2 fun. Type 2 fun versus type 1 fun.
No, explain.
Type 1 fun is eat a chocolate cake, go on a roller coaster. Super fun. I love cake.
Yeah.
I love roller coasters. And you're not going to remember that. It's gone.
Yeah.
Type 2 fun, going on a hard hunt, going on a canoe trip, going rock, like stuff like that. It sticks with you forever. Is it the best ever, every moment of the trip? No. Have you ever carried a canoe through a portage in Northern Ontario during bug season? Not fun at all. Afterwards, it's fun. You remember that trip for the rest of your life. That's type 2 fun. That's what you want. You don't want type 1 fun. It's good sometimes. Go for a roller coaster ride, do a bunch of drugs, whatever. It's going to go quick. Boom, you're going to have a great time. It's over. You don't remember. There's nothing long lasting and nothing learned, no introspection. Nothing comes out of type 1 fun. Type 2 fun is what you want.
I've heard it interesting that it's listed as type 1, type 2. I've heard it referred to as fun versus joy, right? That's like you can get joy out of an experience, but you get fun out of a good time, whatever.
Yeah.
Whoop-de-doo-dah. But it's a little tricky because it's good to have fun. You should have fun, but you need to create joyful experiences to really you want to be able to look back when you're 70, 80 years old and go, man, that was a fucking awesome time. You know what we should do? Go here again, or go do whatever. Like my wife and I went to Turks and Caicos for our honeymoon.
Yeah.
Unbelievable experience.
Yeah.
But the things that I remember most aren't drinking at the bar. Well, okay, cool. That it is fun in the time. Awesome. Woohoo. Good times. But what I really remember is, standing on a white sand beach with the ocean rolling in and the wind just kind of rustling all the leaves. And like, it was an unbelievable experience.
Yeah.
But most people wouldn't find it fun because I'm literally just standing on a beach looking at water, right? There's no... Yeah.
I went to St. Lucia with a wife, her sister, my brother-in-law. Great time. Week in St. Lucia, 5-star resort, beautiful Caribbean island. Great time. I don't remember a single meal I ate. I don't remember anything from that. Like I remember a few things from the trip, but it was all type 1 fun the entire time, basically.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I was on an escape and evasion exercise.
Ooh.
So I had I forget the distance, 80, 100 kilometers to go to escape with OPP, RCMP, all these guys doing exercise to capture
Yeah.
Me. Okay. No food. We're talking days long exercise, right?
Yep.
On the run. Rain, the rest of it, whatever the elements are. No rucksack, you just what you got on you. And I remember stumbling across like a raspberry field in the middle of this. I'll remember that for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? It was such an experience. It's a bag drive and go through the rest of it. Like that type of meal, that type of experience during that hard time, really stuck with me rather than, that steak dinner in St. Lucia that I'm struggling to remember right now. So you do, true. Especially when it comes to, again, balanced work life. If I took my wife on that type of trip, I'd probably be divorced. I need to take the wife to St. Lucia and give her the steak dinner, give her the beach and all that rest of it. So balance and everything, right?
Yeah. I could just picture my wife's eyes if I told her we were going on a seer trip, and she'd just be like, fucking crazy.
We're going on a 3-day backpacking trip, but we're gonna try to eat off the land.
Yeah, we're not gonna bring backpacks. So yeah, and people are gonna be chasing us at the same time. Yeah. There was a point in time on my PLQ, and a bunch of the dudes that were on it because I think there were 5 or 6 dudes from the regiment that were there, and it was in Wainwright, and it was just one of the shittiest Wainwright weeks you can imagine. It was cold, it was windy, cloudy, the sun wasn't out, like it was just crummy for 4 or 5 days. And PLQ is is a bit of a bag drive, and me and dude were sitting along waiting for orders, and a sunbeam hit us just out of nowhere, and it sat on us for probably a good 30 seconds, and we're like, oh, and you could just bathe in the warmth, and you're like, this is awesome. And we looked at each other, and I was like, small victories in Wainwright, man, small victories. It was like 30 seconds, right? But it made our day, and I will never forget that sunbeam, because it was just that instant, right? Just that little instant where you could be like, okay, thank God. Yeah. In the rest of this horrible situation.
Well, there's something to the small victories thing, right? That's like if you don't know about it or you don't think about it, they're just going to slip you by. You're not going to, be able to take the energy from them. Mm-hmm. Something we try to do on our trips is, take these high performers, and I bring them in as guides and mentors on the trip, and teach some of these techniques, shit that we're talking about right now, to make them better performers. High level performers, whether it's high level military or athletes or whatever, they don't just work their body out. They work on their mental game. They work on their mental performance. But for some reason, it's kind of been lost in the wash when it comes to, maybe it is filtering down to the lower levels of the military now, and the guys coming up now, because guys are coming up with podcasts like Tim Ferriss and Jocko and all the other ones we mentioned. So maybe it is the tide is turning. But if you want to be on the point in your game in the military or in the first responder world, you do need to think about these mental techniques. Not just everyone knows about good sleep and good eating and good, physical fitness. You got to work out, all the rest of it. But if you don't take time to think about or practice some of these mental techniques, you're just gonna fall off the rails when something shitty happens, right?
Yep.
You need to be wholesome in your game, in your performance game. You need to come into it like a professional athlete. If you're going overseas or you're going on patrol as a cop downtown Toronto, and all you did was get a good night's sleep and work out, and you didn't think about your mental game, and shit goes sideways, it's going to be hard for you to get that puppy back in control. So what we do on the trip is try to talk about some of these things, explain how you can perform on demand.
Yep.
Explain how you can have a good mental performance game, and then put it into practice. So talk about these things. And then okay, tomorrow we're going to run a crazy ass rapid. So all the stuff we talked about, you need to put into practice. And some of those things are, having good visualization, mentally rehearse what you're going to go through, and not just what you're going to do. If we're paddling a rapid, visualize it. Okay, I'm going to paddle here. I'm going to feel it going, this is what I'm going to say. This is what it's going to look like coming out the other end, all the rest of it. But think about what's going to happen when shit goes off the rails. Okay, if we spill here, this is what we're going to do. If we spill here, this is what we're going to do. And not only that, what you're going to feel during that time. If I spill here, I'm going to have all these thoughts. Holy fuck, I just dumped all my lunch and my food for the rest of the trip is in the river right now.
Yep.
You don't want to think about that at that particular time, right? It's just a cloud. It doesn't help you at that time. So think about all that stuff before you go in. Visualize everything you're going to do. Mentally rehearse how you're going to feel and what you're going to think about if accidents happen or if it doesn't go according to plan prior to doing that action. So that way, when you do spill, you know what you're going to do. You know how you're going to feel. Oh yeah, of course I have this like shitty feeling in my stomach. I planned that. Okay, I got to ditch it, get that emotion, that thought, throw it away and get on with the plan, whatever the next steps are. So, doing that and then putting into practice. Another one we like to talk about is an acronym called WIN, W-I-N, what's important now. So putting what's important now into practice is kind of like some people call it front sight focus, or just tackling one objective at a time.
Yep.
You know where you want to go, but there's a million steps in the way. If you think about all those steps at a time, you're not going to get there. It's going to be too many things at once. What's important now is what's the next most immediate important task, and put 110% effort at that until it's done. And when it's done, what's important now? What's the next most important task?
Yeah.
If you're an infantry guy, you're a combat arms guy, you're overseas, and someone gets hurt, there's an ID strike, there's a contact. Yeah, I know there's a lot of shit to think about. Who's gonna call the flanking? Who's got 6 o'clock security? Who's calling the 9-liner? Who's doing? Okay, it's too much. What's important now? Win the firefight? Okay, 4 down rounds downrange. We won the firefight. What's important now? Getting TCCC on? Okay, get the tourniquet on. What's important now? 9-liner, pass the information up to the other call signs in the area that aren't in contact. Okay, what's important now? Okay, let's maneuver, make sure we don't get a maneuver. You got to take it step by step.
Yep.
So we explain that to the people that come on our trip, and we put into practice on the river, on the rock wall, whatever it is. So these kind of mental models or ways to think about things, if you don't think about them, and you're a high performer, you're a veteran or first responder, you're only coming to battle half the game. Having a good night's sleep, eating all the avocados you want, and squatting 500 pounds, that's only part of it. And because you've been running this podcast, there's another side of it that we need to talk about.
Absolutely. And it is a really critical thing to do. Visualization, not only, I just recently took up jujitsu a couple of years ago, and that was one of the first things I had to learn, right?
Oh man, I try to do it once a week, and I just look at it as this is where I get humbled every day or every week. It's my dose of humbling, right?
My first role, I think I went into the dojo, and the black belt put me up against a 16-year-old girl, and I'm a big dude. She was I think she was a 3 or 4 stripe blue belt at that point in time. Okay, and I'm 6'6", 220.
Yeah.
I have some general grappling skills. I kind of know what I'm doing. She tied me in fucking knots. No question. I had no control whatsoever. And I think I walked out of that day and I was like, this is something I want to do for the rest of my life. Because it was just, you're right, humbling. But you start to realize the longer you get into it that you have to stage those systems, that the what's important now is absolutely correct. I got to get a takedown. I can't think about the submission that I'm going to do until I get a takedown. I can't think about the next position that I'm going to sit in until I get the takedown. We have to figure out there's got to be a scramble. There's got to be blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
On not only in jiu-jitsu, not only in martial arts, but in the military, we used to do so what, I think was the terminology back then, right before they went to WIN. And it was the same thing when you're drafting your orders. What do you have to do? This is my objective. Okay, well, you have to get to your objective. Okay, well, how am I going to get to my objective? Da, 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 and so on and so forth. And then in life, it's the same thing, right? If you want something, you have to be able to break it down into those smaller points. I want to learn French. Well, I don't really want to learn French. I want to learn a second language, but French is probably the easiest. So what have I been doing? I've been doing French I have a little app on my phone, Duolingo, and I'm learning French. Cool, right? But without the step-by-step process, I could have been learning another language is super hard. That's going to take a couple years of schooling. I don't really want to do that. Fuck that noise. Right. And then 2 years go by. I still haven't learned French. I still don't know anything. Or I can go, is there an easier way? Is there a different process? Is there a different system I can think of than just having to go to school or learn from somebody else or blah, 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 blah. But had I not gone, what is it that is, as you said, what's important now, right? What is it? I want to learn French. Okay, that's the important part. Cool. And this translates into time. People always say, I don't have time. I can't do this because I don't have time, or there's no time to get that done. There's no time to do this. What it really comes down to is a priority, right? What is it important to you? Because you will make time if it's important to you. If you want to go on a 5-day hunting trip, well, if it's that important, you will make the time to plan it out, to set up your meal plan, to lay out how much water, how much gas you're going to need, whether or not you're going to need fuel for your stove, or you're going to use fire, blah, 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 blah. And you'll figure it out from there. But without that recognition to go, okay, what's next? Then you do it. Okay, what's next? Then you do it. Rather than, oh my God, 5 days out in the bush by myself, that's too many things, like too many steps. I can't.
Yeah.
Can't do it, right? And
you hit on another point, is just learning new skills, man. It's good for the brain to, you got to exercise that brain, kind of what we've been talking about. Jiu-jitsu, learning new language, man. If you're not doing something to progress and get better, you're kind of stagnant. The jiu-jitsu is a great one, even though it's the best at it, but keeps you humble, keeps you fit. It's super hard to learn.
Yep.
And it's very clear if you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, it's very clear, the hierarchy in jiu-jitsu. If once you put in the time, if you're better than someone else, you're done, man. There's nothing you can do, really.
Yep.
You know what I mean? For the most part.
There's so many times where when I first got there was like 2 or 3 other white belts, and there was a couple blue belts, a purple belt, and a brown belt. So I would be rolling with the higher belts pretty regularly.
Yeah.
And I think I started the first few weeks and I was like, I'm gonna get one of these guys. I'm gonna get one. And it became real obvious real fast that there was no way in fucking hell. And that if anything all I was doing was playing into another one of their traps. And so I started, again, you have to really be introspective here. And I realized that it wasn't that I was, there's no way I was going to beat them. So what do I need to do? Survive, right? See how long I can last for however long. Like I'd roll with the brown belt and he'd have me submitted in 30 seconds. So I'm like, okay, well, next round, 40 seconds. And the next round is, you can accept the consequences, but you just try and push it a little bit further, right?
Yeah.
And
I was rolling. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say that this leads into learning new skills and developing yourself continually. I actually learned that in the bush. Those being in nature was what taught me that, because you can see it in nature, right? Like you can see if you fail in nature, you die, right? If a raccoon doesn't get food, he starves to death. If a wolf misses a deer too many times, he starves to death. If a deer can't hear the bear coming around the corner, you're fucking dead. So the thing that I learned from the bush was that you have to be able to be better continually. Sorry, what were you going to say? As I cut you off.
Go back to rolling. I was rolling with a guy, probably the best guy I routinely roll with. He's probably got 40 pounds on me. And he had me, I don't know what it was, like some sort of north-south situation, or he just crushed me with his body. And I'm like out of air, and he doesn't have me in a submission.
Yeah.
But I'm like on the verge of like running out of air. And I told myself, like, I'm not going to tap for a non-submission. Like, I'll pass out just out of pride. Because I'm not in a submission. I'm just on the weight of his body and shoulder and my neck. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm just like, and maybe that's not the right attitude. Maybe you just gotta like be able to like back down at some point. But I just like, all right, control your breathing. You're not tapping on this bullshit fucking position. He's not got you submission.
Yeah.
It's just my pride. I was like, I'll fucking faint, and they wake me up after, and like, at least tap. But that's just the struggle of fucking jiu-jitsu anyway.
Yeah, I think it's important though, is that it's a growth period, right? Like in the beginning, when you're first couple of weeks, couple of months, right? And somebody puts you in one of those positions where you can't breathe and their weight's on top of you, and they're like, I've submitted people from knee on belly.
Yeah.
Not an actual submission, but you crush the diaphragm. People don't like it when they can't breathe.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. But you learn over time, right? With that experience, you go, oh, I can breathe. I need to focus on it. I can't panic about it. I have to, it's the what's important now, right? Where's the pressure? Get it off my friggin' chest. Okay, now I can breathe.
Yeah.
Now I can move on.
Create that little bit of space.
Yeah.
And then what's the next thing, right? Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So the one thing you've been down the river a few times now, and you've been climbing a couple times, and you've been climbing for a long time, obviously, but the one thing I wanted to ask was, what kind of lessons have you learned from the river? Like, since you've started this program and since you started working with other vets, and what are the things that you've been able to take for yourself?
Yeah, one of the biggest lessons, and we reused this, and it kind of came into our lap. We didn't really realize this going into the first trip, was how well the river kind of translates to really. Hold on a sec. I think my kid's about to bust it on me here. What's up, dude? Hey, I'm not done yet. Give me like 10, 15, 20 more minutes. Is it important? Okay, well, I'll be there soon. Tell her soon, okay? All right. No, bring her too. 1 sec, dude.
Yeah, bud.
Sorry about that, bro.
All good, dude.
Man, I saw him coming out the window. I was like, oh, all right, where are we?
Lessons from the river.
Yeah, lessons from the river. So when we talk about doing rapids, and this translates very well to life, and it just so happened we kind of stumbled upon this on our first trip, was if you look at a section of white water, so how you tackle a rapid on the river, you have to do a recce. So you get out of your boat, you recce the rapid. Okay, where can I go? Where can I go? Where's my safe zones? Where's my outs? Where do I want to finish, etc. So you do your little plan, figure out where you want to go, just like life.
Mm-hmm.
On the river, there's sections of calm water called eddies, and those are little safe zones you can or can't use depending on what you're going to do. It's easy to use them to break up a long rapid. If you don't have to use them, you don't have to use them. And then you commit to the rapid, okay, and you're going in. It very rarely goes exactly as planned. There's always, you bump a rock, you have to go around a rock, or wave hits you the right way. You end up kind of a little bit different than when you anticipated, okay? Just like life.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes water comes into your boat. Sometimes something happens where you end up not where you want to be. You have to take a break. You have to take an eddy. So boom, we find an eddy. We go into the calm section. We take a break. We dump our water. We readjust our plan. Okay, just like life. And boom, we get back into it. We swim back out into the fast water. We continue on, and eventually we get to the end of the rapid. It might not be coming out exactly where we wanted to come out, but it's generally where we were aiming towards, is the end of the rapid. Okay, so this kind of all sounds like life and getting life's goals done to me, right? You make a plan, how you want to accomplish it. You find some places where you might need to take some breaks. You visualize yourself getting there. You visualize what you're going to do if a freaking roadblock or a shit show comes your way. Okay, then you commit. Okay, this happened to me. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, I'm going to adjust here. Okay, something else is happening to me. It's too much to handle. I need to take a break. I'm going to take that eddy. Okay, boom, eddy. Take a breather. Okay, look back. Take another little gander where I want to go. Let's get back into it. So we just kind of looked at as like an analogy to going forward for people in life. Like, okay, now you're done the trip. What's your next goal? You want to go back to work? Okay, you're going to go back into your work life that you're doing before. Okay, great. You're going to go back to school. You're going to do a new job, whatever it is. Look at it like a rapid. Do your recce, do your plan. Visualize all the road bumps and all the stuff along the way. Look for eddies once you commit, you're committed, and use those eddies as required. And when you end up at the end, generally speaking, it might not be exactly where you want it to be, but it's going to be in the same ballpark, and it's going to be just fine.
Yep. And it might be better.
It might be better. Exactly.
Yep.
So having that focus of, the end goal, but all the stuff in the middle is what you want. And so we kind of looked at that analogy of running a rapid, and we just use it on all the trips. And then we use the trip as an eddy. Okay, you're in life, you hit a speed bump. Okay, you're being forced to release from the military for whatever reason, or you want to change careers, or you want to go back to school and it's not going well, or you're on sick leave. Okay, that's you hitting a rock, or you hitting a wave that you were anticipating. Where's your eddy? Yeah. Get the eddy. Boom, take a break. Dump the water. Make a new plan. Adjust the plan. When you're ready to go again, get back out there and continue on. So that our trips, we look at them as an eddy. So we have people, one of the most common feedbacks or emails we get after the trip is, thanks for the eddy. I love the eddy. Can't wait to the next eddy. So that eddy is that break. That's our trip. Is that break that kind of rejig, set ourselves up again. And you don't have to come on a Warrior Adventure trip to do eddy. You're going on a 4 or 5 day hunt. That's your eddy. Shit's getting hectic. Okay, boom, I'm going to go on my hunting trip. I have a goal on my trip, but when you're out there by yourself or with 2-3 other guys, whatever it is, you're having that introspective moments. You're planning. You're just resetting yourself.
Yep.
You need those. You can't run. If you ever run a rapid, it's kind of like controlled chaos, right? You're kind of like a train out of control, semi in control.
Yep.
If you run that track long enough, it's going to be a crazy catastrophe. So life is that out of control train, out of control horse, whatever it is. Every once in a while, you need to rein it in, take that break, take a breather, get back into it. Because if you don't take those steps, those breaks along the way, like I said, it's going to be a catastrophe at the end. So that's a lesson from the river.
You're absolutely correct, and it is such a great analogy for everything, for life, for your career, for the military as a whole, for you name it. You have to be able to stop and go, okay, what next, right? Yeah. And I don't know how many times I heard this one was no plan survives first contact, right?
Exactly.
You can plan things to detail, and this actually brings me back to one of the things you said earlier was I was going to bring it up and then I forgot about it, but the it is better to have a good plan now than a perfect plan 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can plan things to a detail, but the moment you actually start, you don't know what's going to happen. Shit happens, right? And in terms of the river, in terms of even jujitsu, you're talking about hunting. I went this last fall. I went on my annual hunting trip, and I get there my first day, and I'm like, this is friggin' gorgeous. It's awesome. It's minus 27 the first night. It's like super cold in my tent. Wake up the next morning, I have breakfast, climb up to the side of this hill, and I sit down and I'm watching this landscape that is completely white, completely barren. There's no one else around, and I'm having a blast. Great day. Later in the afternoon, I'm looking around and I see this group of elk. Maybe what I think is a couple kilometers away. It was not a couple kilometers. I went down a valley, came up a hill, and I was like, how are they still a couple kilometers away? And then I went down a valley, came up another hill, and like, there's still a couple kilometers. It ended up being like a 6K trek up and down these valleys till I got to a point where I'm like, oh, there they are. They're about a kilometer away. Don't really want to take a shot from here. So, and then I used the same tools you talked about. I had to visualize, okay, I can go straight down this valley and I can come straight up the hill at them.
Yeah.
With the wind at my back. That's probably not a good plan. I can go down the valley or down the hill, across the valley, up the other side of the hill, swing around, which is like another 4 or 5K trek, and then come back down at them from the other side. Or I can scoot around this little corner in the trees, which might be a little bit noisier, but it's maybe 300 or 400 meters. And then I can get close enough that I can look better.
Yeah.
And I did this little shimmy around the corner, and I got there, and I had misjudged how far I had walked, and I came up over this ridge, and there I was about 15 feet from this group of elk. And I was like, oh shit. And I like super slow trying to get back down over the ridge, and then I see this little bit of movement in my corner of my eye, and it's a mule deer that was like staring at me, and I was like, oh, please don't move. And he just like poof, off he went. Elk went with him. And I'm like, fuck. And that was like a good 2.5 hours worth of like stalking and trying to get the timing. And it was a long trip. So I was like, you know what? It's almost dark. I'm done. And on my way back to my campsite, I tweaked my back by stepping in a gopher hole. And I mean, tweaked hard. Like it hurt so much. And I still had about 700 meters to get to my campsite. Plowed through the pain, got to my campsite, had to make the call. Do I stay here for another minus 20 plus odd night? Or do I go into town? Like strike camp and go into town? I made the right call. And I went into town. And when I woke up the next morning, I could barely walk. And I was like, okay, well, smart, good call. But had I not
constantly reassessing, right?
Yep. And then but that whole situation, I could have been pissed off. I could have been annoyed at how completely off my my plan had gone, and how this 5-day trip that I'm supposed to be on is now one, and I didn't actually get any meat, no nothing. Woe is me. Or I can look at it and go, okay, well, that's a solid lesson. Be more attentive when you're walking back to your camp, blah, 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 blah. But it also allowed me to spend that time with my uncle, whose land that I was hunting on. And I got to hang out with him, and I got to shoot the shit. And he had actually injured his ankle, and I was able to share some CBD gummies with him so that he was, calmed himself down, and he was able to relax. And actually, first time he had a really good sleep in a while. But it ties into everything that we're talking about, is that you have to reassess. You have to take those moments to take the eddy, as you said, and sit in it. But you can also realize that in that eddy, you might actually see a better route through that you didn't see from the far bank. And then you go, oh, shit, that looks a lot easier. Okay, I'm going to dive through that way. And then shit can happen, or it can go well. But it's
yeah, because you're not taking those breaks. Everything's coming at you a mile a minute, and you have like split seconds to make those decisions, right? Mm-hmm. So those tack pauses allow you to assess better and make a better decision.
Yep, absolutely. So we're running just a little bit over an hour right now, and I was just wondering if you have any last points, any final thoughts you wanted to throw out to the world.
No, it's been pretty good, man. Great talk. I'll highlight a couple of books I've read that might help.
Absolutely.
You guys doing that? But Tribe, I mentioned Tribe.
Yep.
By Sebastian Junger is a great read. Another one that really helped me kind of develop word adventures and kind of a mental game is Lost Connections by Johan Hari. It's a pretty good one. Kind of like he comes at the angle of this guy. I've been a depressed guy for a number of years on SSRIs, and he was like, "What if SSRIs aren't the answer? Maybe people aren't." Everyone's heard the chemical imbalance in the brain for a depression situation. He's like, well, what if that's not true? What could be the other causes for an epidemic of depression, or what could be the other causes for people getting depressed or the rest of it? And he kind of looks at a bunch of different things. A lot of the stuff we talked about, socializing, meaningful work, learning new skills, stuff like that. And he kind of goes through them all and kind of researches each one in depth. Another one would be Together by Vivek Murthy. That's another good one. He talks a lot about kind of the same things. Just he was the Surgeon General of the United States, and at the end, he was like, the biggest health issue wasn't like cardiovascular stuff or cancer. It was like depression and loneliness was what he thought was the biggest health problem in the United States at the time. And he kind of dives into that. He's like, what is going on? Why is everyone so lonely and depressed, and what can we do about it? So that's a good book there. Another one, again, we talked about learning new skills and just kind of progressing always as humans, is Range by David Epstein. That's another good one. He kind of like takes the 10,000 hour thing. You got 10,000 hours or 10,000 iterations in something to be a master at it, like the Tiger Woods. And he kind of compares that to maybe the polymath, maybe the jack of all trades is a better example of how to be really good at something. And he kind of compares it both, and he comes out with his conclusion was, the more skills and the more skills you're better at, the better you're going to be in the long run. So just kind of having a good solid range of things you can do and things you can speak to kind of, grows you very well. And I try to read a lot of philosophy. It's hard to kind of get good takeaways from it. Like we talked about, you wanted that perfect book at the perfect time.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a book called The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. So he kind of just has a bunch of quotes from philosophers back in the day, and just kind of breaks it down into common terms. So I like to read a couple of those pages a day, and it's just kind of easy to digest. And then I think that's it, man. I use for meditation, I use Sam Harris's meditation app, Waking Up. That's pretty good. It's got it has a meditation trainer in there, but it also has like little snippets of like 5 and 10 minute lessons on, some of the other stuff we've been talking about. He breaks down these like mental training techniques or emotional techniques, or just like, being introspective and thinking about things. I really kind of took my mental game to another level, will be that Sam Harris app.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good, man. I think that's it. You got any other questions before we wrap it
up? No, I think we're good. I was just going to say that Stoicism as a whole has been really helpful for myself, and learning more about it over the years has opened my eyes to a lot of the issues that I had when I was in the military. And because I got bitter real fast after tour. Again, like I wish I had known back then, but I don't know if I would have been as open to them as I am now. So if anybody,
some things definitely come with age, man. Like it's hard to...
got to get a little gray in your beard before you can actually understand them, really. So if anybody wants to follow you or Warrior Adventure Canada or anything like that, how do they find you social media wise?
Yeah, so Warrior Adventures Canada, mostly on Facebook and Instagram, and then our website is warrioradventures.ca.
Wicked. I'm looking forward to the trip. I sent my application in, so hopefully I get accepted.
Yeah, man, coming from a Big Eddie.
Yeah, I think it'd be fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys grow, because so many people are going to get really great eddies from you guys. It's going to be awesome. That concludes this episode of The Toolbox. I really appreciate y'all listening. It has been my pleasure bringing you this awesome guest. If you like what you heard, please like, share, subscribe, do all that awesome stuff. And I hope you can use some of the information that was offered. To all those putting on the line every day, first responders, military, veterans, civil servants, you guys are keeping us safe and keeping the country running. I really appreciate y'all. Hope to see you next time. Till then, stay open, stay humble, and stay focused. Shimo.